So, are you Chinese or Japanese?
I'll be honest in saying that my excitement for video games has dwindled over the years. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy video games and get excited for some of them, depending on the developer or series, one being the Yakuza series. So far, it hasn't gone to shit, and I hope it doesn't go downhill anytime soon. One of the reasons why my excitement towards games has declined is due to many developers and ongoing franchises losing their way. One studio and franchise that comes to mind is Volition and the Saints Row series. What was once an edgy, no fucks given developer that made a politically incorrect series has now turned into an unrecognizable studio wearing the skin suit of Volition. That's not the only studio or series that comes to mind. There's also BioWare. Without getting into detail, I'll just say that they have allowed their personal thoughts and beliefs linger its way into their games, and the developers involved have no problem alienating fans on social media. Come to think of it, this is true for many developers nowadays. Over the past few years, there's been many developers that went out of their way to divide fans on personal thoughts and beliefs, and found ways to cram it into their games, and in some cases, even remakes. The odd obsession with all this has made them unable to handle criticism, resulting in disrespect to fans and unprofessional behavior. So not only do we have full price games that release broken and unfinished, followed by an apology letter, there's also the political side of things. Whether if people want to admit it or not, politics has found its way to video games, especially games developed by American and European studios. And it doesn't matter what genre or setting it is, the thoughts and beliefs from these individuals will find its way in their games one way or another. The same applies to other forms of entertainment. The developers are no different than the directors, producers, or actors and actresses when met with some form of criticism. To them, we have to accept their thoughts and beliefs and consume product or else. But what makes this worse are the brain-dead corporate slaves that take to arms alongside studios. While it's true that politics have been in games over the years, the difference was with how it was implemented. Years ago, the political aspects in a game was related to the story and setting, and it usually wasn't current day politics somehow in fantasy games or post-apocalyptic games. Maybe this sounds like I'm talking crazy, but I'm sure if there was political commentary from the other side, those calling us crazy probably would notice. This brings me to the point of this video. Western games and Eastern games. I can only speak for myself when I say this, but currently most Western games and developers fucking suck. When you think of some of the trendy, complacent garbage we've been given, it's been mostly from non-Eastern studios. And yes, I know Eastern studios are also guilty of releasing below average, unfinished products, but for anyone to pretend that Western studios have been on a roll would be delusional. For me, when I think of games that provide some form of escapism, creativity, layered characters and stories, unless we're talking about Kingdom Hearts, and experiences that don't look to lecture the player or find some way to put their thoughts and beliefs regardless of the genre or setting, I think of Eastern games when all of that comes to mind. There was a time when I looked at Eastern and Western studios the same. They both provided all the things I mentioned, but it seems like year after year, Western studios find ways to make their games progressively worse. While some manage to give us stunning visuals, yet they manage to shit out stories with morally confused plots, featuring insufferable characters that barely have a personality or can never shut the fuck up. Say what you want about some Eastern games that have an art style to them, but at least they provide fun and embraces being a video game rather than trying to be the next show on Netflix. And even when some Eastern games have visuals that can rival Western games, those games also manage to still provide the player with intense action and apolitical adventures. When I think of games I'm most looking forward to, I think of Eastern games because they give me what most Western games refuse to do. They give me games that are not afraid to be games that are not trying to divide its audience or promote a message, games that are not interested in chasing the modern day audience, games that are not afraid of appealing female characters, games made by passionate people who are not trying to meet a diversity quota or lose their shit whenever someone criticizes their games. Now I know I don't speak for everyone, and not everyone will agree, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying that I think most Western studios have lost their way in favor of something else, something corrupt and soulless. When I look at most Eastern studios, they usually show me games that look like it was made with people who are not ashamed of being a game developer in hopes of making it big in Hollywood one day. I see games that look creative and fun, regardless of art style. And I get that these type of games are not everyone's cup of tea. And yeah, they're not all flawless masterpieces, but maybe they're worth checking out. We've already seen how mainstream studios with million-dollar budgets and hype campaigns, with the ultra-realistic graphics, stunning and brave diversity, Hollywood actors and actresses that suddenly became gamers ultimately ends up being a political soapbox or an unfinished mess despite budget and delays. And when you're done looking at the pores on a character's cement bag face and reading apology letters on social media, there will be other games waiting for you that may give you a different perspective on modern gaming and give you hope that there are still developers who truly want to make something with passion above everything else.